Hello, in this video I'll be doing a video documentation of my phone system project for Unreal Engine. I will go over how to modify all the apps in this project and how to add your own apps to this project if you'd like to. I'll leave timestamps in the description in case you want to see how I modify a specific app or in case you need to quickly come back to this video and watch a specific part. So first of all, let's go over how we would use the camera app. So I'm just going to use it, so we click the play button and then press the 1 key to bring up the phone and select the camera app. First of all, it will take us to selfie mode, and we can use the arrow keys to move the camera left and right, up and down. And if we press the 4 button, it will take a screenshot for us. And we can also change to first person mode by clicking the 2 button, and it will change us to first person mode. And we can move around with the mouse button, and we can zoom in and out. And we can also zoom in and out with the selfie camera. So if you want to change these variables or the values of these variables, they're inside the third person character. So just select him, go edit third person character, and they are inside these comments. So this selfie camera zoom, this clamp controls how far we can zoom in and out of the selfie. So if we change this minimum value and maximum value to higher or lower values, that will control how in and out I can move in the selfie. So let's just change this to 20, and now I'll be able to zoom a lot out of my selfie. We also have the first person camera zoom. So the minimum value is 45, so that's how close I can zoom in, and the maximum value is 90, so that's how far I can zoom out. This value should be left at 90 because if it's above 90, then it starts to look weird. Although if I change this to something like 20, I'm going to be able to zoom a lot more in. But again, you should leave the maximum value at 90, otherwise it will look weird. This selfie camera rotation. So in my selfie camera, I can move the camera up, down, left and right. So the values here just determine how to the left and to the right I can move it. So I made the minimum value -8 and the max value 20. So if I made this value something like 30, I'd be able to move the camera a lot more to the right. And it's a very similar thing with move the camera up and down. So this is the minimum value I can do it, and this is the maximum value I can do it. Playing with these values, I'll be able to move the cameras to a different length. So if you just want to change how far the player can move the camera, you'd play around with those variables. And that's basically the camera app. Next, let's go over how the gallery app works. So I click the play button, and I press the 1 key to bring up my phone. If I go to my gallery app, it'll basically show me all the pictures that I've taken with my camera. If I click on one of the pictures, it will enlarge and I'll be able to see a better picture of it. I can get close to close this. So let's go over how this works. So you want to go to your settings and go to project settings. And under the search details, you want to look for screenshot. So whenever I take a screenshot inside of this project, it basically saves it, and it saves it to this folder. So what you want to do is click these 3 dots and specify where you'd like it to save the images that you take inside of this project. So I just pick this folder inside my desktop, and I just select folder. And then what you want to do is copy where this folder is and go to the gallery_widget blueprint. And you want to head over to the graph, and you'll see this variable called image location, and you just want to paste this value inside of the image location. So this image location variable will basically get where that folder is inside of your folder and basically load up all the screenshots that you've taken and display them in the gallery. And this amount variable will basically control the maximum amount of pictures that I will show in the gallery. So I've made it show 5, so it will not show more than 5 screenshots inside of my gallery. Just a note, the larger this amount is, the longer it will take to load up the gallery. That's basically all you would need to know for the gallery function of this project. Next, let's go over how to use the internet app. The first thing you want to do is go to settings and go to plugins, and you want to go to built-in and look for web browser. So this is a built-in plugin into Unreal Engine, and you need to make sure that the web browser is basically enabled, otherwise the internet app probably will not work. Once you enable it, you'll probably have to restart your computer, but once you've done that, the web browser should be able to work. So if I just click play and press 1 and open the internet, it'll first take me to Google, and I can search for things inside here like Unreal Engine. And I can also use the search bar at the top, but I need to make sure I put something like www. and then put the URL, so youtube.com for example, if I wanted to go to YouTube. If I did not put the www.youtube.com, then it would not work. So for example, if I just put something like Bing and then click go, it will fail to load. And if we head inside the internet app, if we just select it, so we can also go to hierarchy and select web browser underscore 87. And if we go to appearance and go to initial URL, so we can control the initial URL that will take us to. So I could change this to be another website if I wanted to, but I just left this at www.google.com. And that's basically how to use the internet. So let's go over how to use the Notes app. So if I click the play button and I press the 1 key to bring up my phone, I can go to the Notes app and I can basically write something down in here like Unreal Engine is great. And then if I close this and close my project, if I go play and press 1, it'll basically save anything that I've written. It'll basically save anything I've written inside of this Notes app. There's not much that you'll need to edit inside of the Notes app, but I'll still go over it. So if we go to the Notes and go to underscore widget blueprint, the only thing that you would really need to be able to change is if you go to this multi-line editable text, we can change the hint text. So by default, I made it say write down things you need to remember, but you could make it say something else like, I don't know, write down notes. And this will just change the hint text. So we just click compile. That's basically all you'll need to know for the Notes app. So let's go over how to use the Music app. So if I click the play button and press 1, I can bring up my phone. If I go to the Music app, it'll basically bring up all the songs I have. I can click play and it'll start to play the first song inside of my Music app. I can click shuffle and it'll play a random song from one of these songs. So if I click this, it'll start to play my neutral song. I'm just going to pause it. If I click this button, it'll bring up the song here. And we can fast forward. Or we can go backwards if we want to. I'm just going to close this. And that's basically how the Music app works. We can also search. So I could just search for Boss Music and it'll filter and only bring up this Boss Music song. So with the Music app, you'll just need to know how to add your own songs if you'd like to. So let's go over how to do that. So let's go to the music. First you want to go to the music underscore widget blueprint. And then you want to go to the graph. And then you want to go to where it says editable and there'll be this music variable. And inside this variable are basically all the songs inside of this music widget blueprint. So I just click here, you'll be able to see the first song, which is on my app. So the name of the song was called Happy Song. The artist name I put is Mops. The song was this audio and the cover was this image. So if I wanted to add another song, I just click this add element and then I'd go here. For the name, which is going to be the name of the song, I could put awesome song. For the artist, I could put my name, so I could put USCO. For the song, so this is going to need to be a sound cue. Sound cues can easily be made when you bring in any audio file into Unreal Engine. So for some song like this, if you just right click and click create cue, it will create a sound cue for it. So it can be, once you import your music file, just right click on it and click create cue to make it a cue. For the song, you're basically going to select a song that you've imported into Unreal Engine, and for the cover, you're basically going to select the image that you'd like it to be. So I'll make it this 7 image, and for the song, I'll just make it this a boss music underscore cue. And now if I click compile and go play and press 1 and go to my music, I'll now have this song which is awesome song, and I can filter for it. So I can just type in awesome song and it'll filter this awesome song. It'll basically display all those details. Also, word of advice, just a tip, for the cover, I made it so that if I just click play and press 1 and bring up my music and select the song, I made it so that this image size is 300 by 300. So I recommend having your image be that size if you want it to look all fit and correct. Next, let's go over how to use the Keypad app. So I click the play button, press 1 and bring up my phone and go to my phone. I made it so that if I put 999 and then click this ring button, I'll start to call.
Hello, this is the emergency service.
And it'll play this
You
message.
really shouldn't be calling this number unless you.
I'll just hang up and it will stop the call immediately. So now let's go over how you would make it if you wanted to add your own custom number, and when the player calls it, it will play a certain audio if they call the correct number. So let's go over that system. So I'm going to go to my apps and we want to go to the Keypad underscore widget blueprint. And we want to go to the graph and we want to go to the event graph. I'm just going to zoom out, and we want to go to this comment which says, when correct number rang, play. So as you can see, when the number, which is the number that we dial into the keypad, when the number 999 is played, it will do this event called play call, and it will play this sound. So I'm going to add a pin, and if we just select this int, we can see pin names, and if I made this number something like 1111, now when I call this phone, and if I put 111, off of here we just want to drag and select play call, and we can control a couple of variables inside here. So the time to pick up the phone is going to be how long the player is going to be waiting before the call sound is played. So I can make this something like 3. And then the call sound is going to be the sound which is played once the person picks up the phone. So I can make this something like the 999 call again. And again, the call sound has to be a Q. So I've made it so that if I press 1111 inside of the phone app, it will also call this number. So I'm just going to compile this and go play. And now if I go press 1 and go to my phone and press 1, 1, 1, 1, and press call, I have to wait 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3.
Hello, this is the emergency
service.
service.
And then
You
I'll
read
play that message. So I just hang up so that it would end. That's basically how you would use the keypad in order to make it so that if you call a custom number, it will play a certain sound. Next, let's go over how to set up contacts. So contacts are very similar to the keypad. It's just a saved number that you can call. So if I open up my phone and go contacts, I have this one contact called U for mannequin. And again, I can filter for and search for my contacts just like I can search for the music. And if I click this button, it will start to call this U for man.
Hey, it's your buddy, the unregistered mannequin.
I'm just going to hang up.
I'm sorry, mate, but I can't.
So it works very similar to the keypad. When you click on this button, it will basically call and play a certain sound. So let's go over how we set that up. So to do that, we can just close this. We're going to go to the contact _widget blueprint. And if we're in the designer, you just want to click to graph. And then you want to go to variables and go to editable and select contacts. And to add a new contact, we just want to click this add element array button. And then we want to go here and fill out the details of the contact. So first we need to put in the name. So this time I'm going to add USGO as a contact. For the contact image, I'm just going to select this angry texture. And for this first dialog, we can ignore this. This is used by a different app, so we can just ignore here. And for the message sound, this is going to be the sound that plays once we call the contact. So I can make it play the cat song. And again, we can ignore this is new message. This is used in another app. So now I click compile and click play. If I press 1 and go contacts, I have this new contact called USGO. I click on it. We'll start to call USGO. And then it's playing this cat sound. I'm just going to hang up. Also, once the audio of the contact is over, it will automatically hang up. So that's basically how you would add contacts to this cell phone project if you'd like to. Next, let's go over how we change some of the settings inside of the phone app in this project. If I click the play button and open up my phone and press the settings button, it will show me the settings that I can change inside of the phone. Let's go with the first one. So the first one is this toggle phone HUD. If I just turn this off and select it, if I click go back, it will no longer show me the HUD. So the HUD shows me the day, the time, and the battery icon. So if you wanted that off, you can just turn that off in the settings. But we can also turn it on if we just click this button again, and it will start to show me that information. In the settings, we can also change the background. So if I go background and select this Unreal Engine background, my background will now be this background. And there's one more setting we can change, and that is the ringtone. So as you can see, we have 3 different ringtones. Whenever the player gets a message, it will notify him and it will play one of these ringtone sounds. So if I select ringtone 2, now whenever my player gets a message, he'll hear that ringtone sound. So let's go over how you change some of the settings inside of the phone app. You want to go to the settings _widget blueprint, and you want to go to hierarchy and basically make sure that this tab is closed, so it just shows main settings, background overlay, and ringtone overlay. You can see that I hid both of their visibilities. Just click this eye icon to make it visible. And if I just select one of these buttons, so these are just some buttons, and whenever you click on them, I make it so that it sets the background to be this button. So I made it so that when you hover on this button and you click on this button, nothing changes. Although if you wanted to add an effect, you could easily make it change the image or something, but I've not. So if we scroll down, when you click on the button, that's when I make it become the phone backgrounds button. So let's just click on clicked and go view. So as you can see, when I click this button, I call this update background event, and inside here is the background that I set it to be. So I made it, when I click this button, it sets the background to be background 1, and background 1 is also this image. And then to make it save that background, you basically need to, here in the set, make it background 1 here, and it will save the background to be background 1, so that when you open up the phone again, it will just automatically be that background. So here are some of the default backgrounds. You can change them if you want to, or if you want to, you can make it so that when we click these buttons, it changes the background to be something else, or you could add your own background. So you can just copy this horizontal box and paste it inside of this background. Just click this up arrow icon to make it above that, and you can basically add your own backgrounds, and just make sure that when you scroll down and go on clicked, that it has the same code as change background, where you just need to reference this phone UI and call it update background, and also set the background inside of the mobile save game. So you can just literally copy all of this like this, Control C, and paste it here with the new background that you'd want if you want to add your own background, or you can just change some of the original options. So I'm just going to delete this. So that's basically how you would add your own background if you wanted to do that. So I'm just click this eye icon so it's hidden. Next we have the ringtones, which is pretty similar. So I'm just going to unhide them. So I have these 3 ringtone buttons. If we just select one, scroll down and go on view, when we click on the ringtone, I basically load our save game, and I set it so that our ringtone will be this sound. So you can choose any sound from your sound queue, and when the player gets a notification, their ringtone will be the sound. I then play that sound so the player can hear it, and then I save this game. So if you wanted to change the ringtones, you can change them here, or you can add your own ringtone. Similarly to how we added our background, we can just add a new button and just copy all these blueprints and just make sure that we change the sound. So that's basically how you would change the settings inside of this project. Just one more piece of advice for the backgrounds. If I just go to my phone texture and go to my background, each background has a resolution of 347 × 609, because that is the size of the phone. So if you want to make a background, it'll be good if it is in that resolution. Otherwise it may be squeezed to fit this resolution and it may look a bit weird. Next, let's go over how to use the GPS system. So if I press the 1 button, it'll bring up my map, and I press the GPS, it will bring up my GPS. So I'm just going to close my phone, and if I walk here, press 1, we can see the GPS will accurately show where I am on the map. So let's go over the process of how we would add your own map if you wanted to, and how to make this GPS map change if, say, the player enters another room, we'd want it to update on the GPS. So I'll go over how to do that. So first, I'm going to create another room for my player to enter. So I'm just going to copy these walls and duplicate them and move them here. Okay. I don't need this last wall, so I'm just going to move it here. And I am just going to add some cylinders here. I'm just going to make them, okay, I'll make them 5. So I'm just designing a new map for my GPS. So I'll just press Control C and Control V, and I'll create this new map. So we're going to create a new map which will basically show just this room, and when we enter this room, it will update the map to display this room. So the way I created the map is we use a 2D texture. In order to get that 2D texture, just look for Scene, Capture Component 2D, and drag it in here. And you want to set the rotation in the Y to be -90. And then you want to just right click anywhere and go to materials and textures and select render target and just drag this render target with the scene capture selected, and I'll basically show an image of where this scene capture is in the map. We then want to basically go to change this from perspective to orthographic and then position where we want this in the map. It's good to just use X0, Y0 as a good starting place, although you do not have to use these locations, although it will make things a bit easier. You'll see why when we create a map. So I'm going to change the width of this to be something like 5,000. This will just make it so that it's zoomed out. And I just want this map to be of the second room, so I'm just going to move this back a bit. It can take a while to load, so I'm just going to actually make this zoom in a bit. Make this like 4,000. And that is good for me. So I now have an image of how this room is going to look. So we can just export this image, and we can do that by just right clicking on this and going to asset actions and export, and I'll export this. So I'm just going to save this to this desktop folder. Then you want to go to some software like Photoshop or some other photo editing software and just go file and import the image we exported. So I called my new texture render 2D HDR. So it'll be a .hdr file. I'll just click OK. And the first thing we need to do is go to image, and we want to go to mode and change this to 8-bit and click OK. So if you wanted to, we could basically, this is what I did with the original app, we can basically just paint over it if you wanted it to have its own look. But for the tutorial, I'm just going to use this image, and then we want to basically save this. So let's go File, Save As, and I'll save this as a PNG. Call this my second room. Click OK. So once you've edited the image to your liking and you've got the map looking how you want it to, just import it into Unreal Engine, and we're ready to use this image as our map. So to set that up, we want to go to our apps and we want to go to our map widget blueprint. And if we double click and head inside, we can see it has our map image. What we're going to do is go to our graph and go to the event graph. And you can see I have this variable called maps. And this is basically controlled by an enum. So I'm just going to close this and go to blueprints, and we can see this variable called maps. So inside here, I have a list of all my maps. So I have this map called starting map, and I also have this map called testing map. So I'm just going to delete this. And if we wanted to add a new map, we would basically hit this new map button. So sorry, we'd click this new button, and it will load a new enum, and we'll call this what we want the name of our map room to be. So I'll call this room 2, and click save. And if we go to our map underscore widget blueprint, now if I select this map blueprint, if I click here, we can see it has the room 2 option. So we're gonna make this image display our other image when the player enters room 2. But first we need to calculate how the map will look when it's in room 2. So to do that, we basically wanna select this update player map, right click on it and duplicate it. And we'll just call this our room 2. And inside here, you can see that I do some calculations to draw our map onto the screen. So one of the first things I do is divide the X and the Y value of the player character by 4,000. This 4,000 represents the ortho width. So whatever this ortho width is here will need to be the same value inside of the map for that we're creating. So we can just leave this at 4,000, but for example, if you made this width something like 5,000 or 7,000, inside of this new function we're creating, we need to basically place that number here. This minus 609 and 347 we can just leave. These are basically the dimensions that we want it to draw the map in. So I just made it these dimensions because these are the dimensions of the phone. And if you remember, when we first created this map, I said it would be ideal if we could leave these values at 0 and 0. If they're 0 and 0, we don't have to do anything, that's fine. If they're not 0 and 0, then we basically need to add these values onto our map. So I'm just going to open up my map, and you can see here we have return in X. So since my X is minus whatever this value is, inside of my blueprint we need to account for that. So to do that, we'll just drag off here and go minus, and we'll basically minus this. So I'll just copy this and paste this into here. And then we will add this to this value. And we'll do the exact same thing for the Y value. So for the Y, this value is minus 0.2. So we'll do the same thing. For the Y, we'll drag up here, look for minus, copy it here, and then add this onto this value. So if this value was a positive number, then we just add it. But since they're both negative numbers, we're going to minus them. And then we can click compile, and it'll save this. And then we're going to go back to our graph and go to our event graph. And if we're on room 2, we want to call our room 2 function. I'll just plug this into here and click compile. And then in order to tell the game that the player has entered a new map, I made this blueprint called update map BP. So it'll be in the mobile phone blueprints. You basically want to drag this and basically expand this box. Whenever this player overlaps this box, it will update the map. So for the map, you just want to select the map that the player will be going into. So if you remember, we made that room 2 image. So I'll just select it. It will ask us for the dimensions that we want it to be. So we want this to be 347 by 609 because this is the dimensions of the phone. It will also ask us which map room we're entering. So we'll be entering room 2. Now if I click save, and go play. I press 1, we can see, and I go to my GPS, we can see I'm in this room. I'm just going to get off my phone because I made it so the player walks slower when they're on the phone. I go here, pass here, press 1. We can see that my map has updated to this room. And I'm just going to go next to one of these. And my map will be able to accurately tell the game that I am next to this object. One more thing with the maps. As you can see, it looks quite stretched because the map is stretching to fit the phone. I made it that way so that the maps fit the phone. Although if you want it so that the map does not stretch to fit the phone, what you can do is go to our apps and go to our map underscore widget blueprint. And here in the image side, you can basically change the dimensions of the map. So I can change this to be something like 500 by 500. And then if we go to the graph, so I'm just going to go to update player on map because this is the first map. In here, we'd also need to change the dimensions to reflect that. So make this 500 by 500. And now if I click compile and go play, when I go to my GPS, the map will be 500 by 500 and it can look a bit better, or you can make this the original resolution of the map. Although the reason I just made it that specific value is so that it fits in the phone. Although if you wanted to change it, that's how you basically do it. And with the player map, there's also this player map widget. So this is the widget which displays when we open the GPS. You can basically replace this with your own player icon image if you wanted to. So I don't have anything else, but if you had another image, you could basically change it here if you'd like to. And with that, that is basically how you would use the GPS/map system in this phone project. Next, let's go over how to use the phone notification system. So I click the play button and I walk up and go to this area. I'm going to get a call from this unknown number. So let's go over how we'd set that up. In the blueprints, I have this blueprint called trigger phone call, and that's what this is. I've just dragged this into the scene here and expanded the size. And when my player overlaps this box, it will trigger the phone call. So for the phone call, we have a couple of settings. Here we have caller name. So here we can display the name that is going to be called the player. So I can make this USCO. And then here we have the audio that's going to play if the player decides to pick up the phone. So here we can select the audio. So I can make this cat song and click save. And now I go play and go here, I'll get a call from USCO. I can pick it up. I'll play the cat song. I'm just going to hang up. And once the audio is finished playing, the player would automatically stop holding the phone. And that's basically how you set up a phone notification system. Next, let's go over how to use the last app, the message system. So if I click the play button and open up my phone and go to my messages app, it'll show me any messages I've got. So I've got a message from the mannequin, and again I can filter this out, so I can search and filter for just the mannequin. When I click on this, it'll open up the message I have with him. So he sent me, hey, I got a new mobile phone, it's so cool, and then you can choose a response. So I can say, same, they are great. How did you get my number? I don't care, please never message me again. And depending on what I send him will depend on the response I get. So I'm just going to say, same, they are great. And then he messaged me back saying, I'm glad you find them cool as well. And when the conversation is over, you have no more options to respond to, and then you just click close and your message is over. Next, let's go over how you set up and add your own messages if you'd like to do that. So you want to go to the blueprint folder and go to the message data table. And I'll briefly explain this data table. So here you can see it says row name, which is the row's name. Intro message, this is the message that you'll first see when you open up the message. Player response 1, player response 2, and player response 3. So here are the options that you have to respond to the intro message with. And here you can see we have row 1, row 2, and row 3. Row 1 is linked to player response 1, and row 2 is linked to player response 2, and the same with row 3. So what happens if we click on player response 1, it's going to load up the row in row 1. So this is the intro message. Hey, I got a new mobile phone. When I click on player response 1, it's going to load up whatever is in row 1. So when I click on player response 1, it loads up row 1, which is U4Man1. And in U4Man1, I make it say, I'm glad you find them cool as well. So if I had clicked player response 2, how did you get my number? It's going to load up row 2, which is U4Man2, and then it's going to display this message. You gave it to me, duh. So let's say I wanted to set up a new message. I basically go add. It's going to ask me what my intro message is. So I'm going to make this say, life is great. The player is going to be able to respond. So he can say, I agree. He can say, no, it's not. Or we can say, don't talk to me. And here under row 1, row 2, and row 3, this is going to be linked to the player response. So when I click on the option of player response 1, it will then bring me to row 1. So I can make this bring up UE4Man1, and I can make row 2 bring up UE4Man2, and I can make row 3 bring up UE4Man3. I know that doesn't make sense, those responses, although with this example I basically hope to show you how the message system works. So then we can click save, and I'll go over how and where we would add this message. So in the message system, I want the game to basically save the response that you give. So if I go play and open up my message again, it'll basically bring up the last message that he sent me. I'm glad you find them cool as well. So the messages, for that reason, they're saved inside of the save file of this project. So I have this blueprint called mobile phone save. So what we're going to do is just double click and head inside here. And we're going to go to contacts and to add a new array element. So name, here's going to be the name of the person we're messaging. So I'll call them USGO. Contact image, so this is going to be the image that we see. I'll just make this 0. First dialogue. So the first dialogue is basically going to ask which row name do we want to start this player's dialogue on. So for us, it's going to be new row. We can change the name of this just by right clicking and renaming this. So I can call this 1. And now I go to my mobile phone save and go to first dialogue and press 1. His first dialogue will be here. Message sound we can just ignore. If you remember earlier, in the contacts, we use this, although here we don't need to, and his new message we can ignore. After this, I'm going to show you how to set up a message notification, and we'll use this variable for it. But for now, for just adding messages, we don't need it. So we can just ignore this, and then click compile and save. So with the message system, if I click the play button now, it's not going to load because my player already has a save game. So we need to delete the player's save game. So to do that, we just right click and go show in Explorer. You want to head to the saved file of this project. So this is Unreal Engine Projects Mobile Phone. That's what it should be named, unless you renamed it something. You want to go to Saved. You want to go to Save Games. And you want to go to 1 and just delete this, because for this project I made the save file be called 1, and we just can delete this. So now if I click play, open up my phone and go to my messages, it will show the message that I got from years ago. I'll start with life is great. So I'll just show the first couple of lines of the message. You click on it, it shows the whole message. Life is great. Choose your response. So if I click I agree, it will take me to the option that I put in the data table. And when the message is over, I get no more options. Then I click close, and now I have gone through all my messages. So there's one more thing I want to show you with the message system. Just like with the phone system, how we can trigger phone notifications, we can also trigger message notifications, although they work a bit differently. So first I'm going to go to my blueprint folder, and I created this blueprint called Trigger Text Message. I'm just going to expand this box. Whenever my player overlaps this box, it's going to tell him that he has gotten a new message. Although this works a bit differently because in this project we save all the messages that the player gets. So in order to make a triggered phone message, what you want to do is go over to the mobile phone save, and you want to go to the contacts. And if you remember, we added this message by USGO, and we set his first dialogue to be 1. Although in this project, by default, I made it come with this first message, which is just a message which will be preloaded on your phone, and this other message, which has this is new message box checked. So because this box has been checked, it is going to be able to be triggered by our message notification blueprint. So with the message system, if you ever want a message to be able to be triggered later into the game, you want to make sure that when you add the message to this variable, that you check this is new message, and you'll be able to set it up as a message notification later on in the game. So I'm going to close this, and we have our message notification here dragged into our world. And if you can see, under message list, the number is 1. If I go back to my mobile phone save, inside of this array, each of these messages has a number next to them. So if you added some more elements and you wanted them to be triggered later in the game, you just want to make sure that this is new message box is checked. And as we can see, this is number 1. So I just close this. The message I want to trigger, it should have the same number. So I want to trigger message 1, and this message is also is a new message. So I just close this and go play. If I walk into that box, we can see we get this message. New message from test, and then it displayed the message. As you can see, that disappeared quite quickly, so I'm going to add a variable which will allow you to control how long the message will be on the screen before it disappears. I'll add that here by the time I've released this project. And with that, we have basically covered how to use and basically tweak every app inside of this project. So I'm just going to go through one more thing. So if we go and select our third person character and go edit third person character, inside here we have a variable called phone speed. So this basically controls how fast the player moves when they're holding the phone. So if I made this something like 600 and go compile and play, when the player presses 1, he'll move at a fast speed. I just made the default value 100 because for this phone animation, I'm not the best at making animations, but I basically blended the character's default animation with the phone animation that I created. So I found a value of like 100 works. So I just left it at that, although you can make it even slower. So this will be the speed that the player is at when they are on their phone. Another thing, if I click play and go 1, you can see it says the time and the day. So we can change how fast this time is in the game. So I'm just going to go to my apps, and what you want to do is go to the phone UI and go to the graph, and you want to go to this comment where it says event begin play, and you want to go to this increase time event. So here, every 3 seconds, it's basically going to increase the time by 1 minute. So if I made this something like 1, and then I go play, and go back to my game, press 1, every 1 second, the time is going to increase by a minute. And this and this phone is going to save the amount of time. So as you can see, the time is 4:10. If I just close this, so I entered when the time was 4:12. When I open up my phone, it will continue from the previous time because it saves the time that we do. If you wanted to hide all these, you could just turn them off in the HUD if you wanted to. So with that, I'm just going to show you one more thing, and that is how to add your own app if you wanted to do that. So what I do is I just clone the notes underscore widget blueprint because it has the least amount of blueprints in it, and I'll just duplicate and copy it. I'll just right click and I'll rename this my test app. If we go inside here, now if you want to, you can make it so the app is bigger than this defined radius. So with each of the apps, apart from the internet, I made each of them inside of an overlay. I made sure that their size X was 347 and that their size Y was 609. That way it would fit inside of the phone. Although if you wanted to, you could use a much wider widget, or you can make the widget take up the whole screen just like how I did it with the internet app. And you can basically code what you want the widget to do inside of here. The only important thing that you need to make sure you do is have a button which allows you to hide this widget. So inside each widget, I have a button, something like close notes. And when the player clicks on this button, you want to make it so it hides this widget. So just set the visibility of this widget to be hidden and it will hide that widget. So let's go over how we then add this to our phone. So just so we know, this is a different app. I'm just gonna select this text and I'll call this my new app and click compile. What we want to do is head over to the phone UI and go to the designer. So what I did is I made it so that whenever I click on one of these buttons, it will open up one of those widgets that I created. So in order to add a new app, you want to go to the palette and add a button. And I made all these horizontal boxes and they contain 3 apps in each of them. You can play around with this and change this. So maybe you want it to have 4 apps in each row, but it's free for you to change. So what you want to do is just drag this button, and for now I'm just going to drag this into my last horizontal box, this one. And for the image, so I have all these logos, so maybe you have a logo for your app. For this I'm just going to make it 0, and we need to change the size. So I made each app 75 by 75, and you want to make sure that you draw it as an image, and you need to make sure you do it for hovered or pressed. So you can make it show a different image when you hover over an app or when you press an app. So I don't have a different image for this, so I'm just going to make it the same. So I'm going to select 0. I'll make this 75 by 75. And again, make sure this is drawn as an image, and we'll do the same thing for pressed. Make this a 0 button. Make this 75 by 75. So this looks a bit off because with this, I've also added some padding to this so that this button has a bit of a gap between them. As you can see, each of them have a bit of a gap. If I made the gap of this something like 20, we can see this moves over quite a lot. So you can play around with that if you want to change specifically where this button appears on the phone. But for now, I will just leave it. Then what we're going to do is under our palette, we want to look for our test app. So this is the app that we just made, and we just want to drag it in. And what I've done is I just drag the app on top of this phone widget. And then what you want to do is just click this eye icon so you can't see it. And then under the details, make sure we want to look for visibility and just select hidden. Then when we click on this button, so I'll just select this button, clear this, scroll down, we want to go on clicked. And when we click on this button, so in my blueprints, I'm going to look for the test app that I just made. We want to drag this in, get test app, drag off here and look for set visibility and set it so it is visible and we can see it. Another thing I did with each of the apps, so you click play, press 1. When you hover over an app, it basically will display the app on the bottom, so you can see when I hover over internet, it says internet. When I hover over notes, it says notes. So we'll set that up with this test app. So I'll just go to the phone UI. Here we see what happens when we hover on an app. So we'll set that up with the bone that we just created. So what I'm going to do is scroll down, go on hovered, and on hovered we'll just drag this. And what I'm going to do is just copy this. So I'll go Control C, Control V, and then type in the text. So we can just put here our test app. And when we hover on this app, it will basically display that text. And if I click compile, go play, press 1. When I hover on my app, it says test app. When I click on it, it opens up this new app. So we can tell it's our new app because we click new app. And if I click close notes, it'll basically close that app. And that's basically how you'd add your own app. With that, I've basically gone through everything of this phone. If you still have any problems or queries with this, please go to the page for this asset and find my email address and email me. If you email me, there's a 100% chance that I'll be able to read and respond to your query. If you comment it, I may not be able to see it because sometimes YouTube will hide the comment. So in order to make sure that I can 100% answer your query, please just email me and I'll be able to 100% look at it and we'll be able to work through any problems. If you are enjoying this asset and it's helpful, a review on the Unreal Engine Marketplace would be greatly appreciated. And if you're not subscribed, just subscribe. I do like Unreal Engine related content, and I hope you enjoyed, and bye.